In this video, we'll be covering the rebuttal speeches in debate, so you can answer your opponent's arguments with ease and efficiency. As a lesson preview, this lesson will cover first, what rebuttal speeches are, 2, working on your organization, and third, some delivery tips regarding rebuttal speeches. So first, what are rebuttal speeches for? So the main role of rebuttal speeches is to answer or refute your opponent's arguments that they made across the debate. These speeches are also important because they allow you to engage with your opponent's arguments. Compared to a speech event, where you are the only one that is speaking, a debate event is different because these rebuttal speeches allow you to engage and analyze the arguments that your opponent has made. It is fairly easier for people to do their constructive speeches without being overly prepared because all they have to do is just read. But rebuttal speeches are a separate level of concentration and strategy that is needed because you need to actually analyze your opponent's arguments and you have to make answers to those arguments. Now let's talk about organization that you should put in your rebuttal speeches. You should always start with your own case and then your opponent's case. Remember, your case is your offense. It is always important to put your offense first before your opponent's arguments. If you don't tell your judge about your own case, which is the most important part of your side, that means that you are not going to get a path to the ballot and you're not going to be able to win. Second, you should always go line by line, or at least try to go line by line. Line by lining is another way of saying that you answer your opponent's arguments one line at a time. 3. Don't drop arguments. Dropping an argument means that you're not answering your opponent's arguments, which means that you essentially agree to their argument being true. This is extremely detrimental, because if you have 2 arguments and your opponent has 2 arguments, and you answered only one of your opponent's arguments, as opposed to your opponent answering both of your arguments, this means that their one argument that you dropped has 100% truth value, meaning that no matter what you say in the later parts of that round, that argument is still going to exist, and that argument could be the deciding factor of how you lose the debate. So make sure to not drop arguments. On the other hand, make sure to point out dropped arguments. If your opponent makes a mistake, you should make sure to point it out in case it is important. If your opponent does not answer any of your arguments, this means that you can tell your judge that it's really important to vote for you because now your arguments should have the most leverage above their arguments because your arguments were never answered. Now for some delivery tips. Do not signpost by negating. Signposting by negating is another way of saying you should avoid saying your opponent's arguments for them in their entirety just to refer what you're responding to. So let's say that your opponent makes an economy argument and an innovation argument. When answering their economy argument, you would say, on their economy argument, this is wrong due to X, Y, and Z. Do not say, on their argument that talked about how the AF is going to worsen the economy. This in and of itself is giving your opponent extra speech time. That is obviously not that great, and it could even lose you the round because you just reminded the judge of your opponent's arguments. Instead, don't boost your opponent's credibility. Just simply say on their economy argument. Try to be as efficient and simple as possible when addressing your opponent's arguments. Go slow and focus on having a fluid delivery. A fluid delivery is really important because it allows you to give the judge a conception of you having a very clear understanding of what you're saying, and because you're so confident in saying what you know, it sends the judge a message and a signal saying that this person or this speaker is a very good speaker. And lastly, having overviews or summaries that summarize your contentions can help. These overviews can be pre-written in your document, and when you're at the top of the 1AR, about to give your speech, about to extend your first contention, you would have an overview in case you forgot what that contention said, or in order for you to save as much time as possible, because you wouldn't want to waste your precious speech time trying to scroll through the document and trying to figure out what your AF contention is saying during your speech, but instead you would want to have these overviews or summaries. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned a lot about the structure, the reason, and the organization for why rebuttal speeches are so important.